Welcome to this section of the series. In this video, we are going to be talking about how to create a table in PostgreSQL. In the previous video, we spoke about data types in PostgreSQL, which is very important in order to understand the process of how to create a table. So if you don't yet know about data types in PostgreSQL, I would recommend you check the link in the description below. The link to that video is there. Try to watch it before coming to this video so you're going to understand the data types which we are using in the process of the table creation. In case you're here, I will assume you already know about data types in PostgreSQL, so we are going to concentrate on creating the table. So let's get started. So the table we are going to be creating is an employee table, and here you will see that our table has an ID column, name, age, and position. For example, the ID will be a unique identifier, which here is 1, the name James, age 34, and the position of this employee is an accountant. So James is an accountant. So how then can we create such a table in PostgreSQL? To do that, we need this syntax below. So we are going to use this syntax, which is simple. It says create table, then we have the table name, create table, then we have our table name, then we now specify the column names as well as their data types. So for you to see this in a more visual manner, then we have this other syntax right here, which is what we are actually going to be using to create the table. So it says create table employee. In this case, this is our table name. Create table employee. Then for the columns, we need the ID column. The ID column, which is going to be an integer. The age is a number, so in this case we use an integer data type. Then the next we have the name column. Then we are going to use the varchar since it is a limited set of characters, which we know that the maximum value will hardly exceed 100 characters. So in this case we use a varchar. Then we have the age, which is also an integer since it is only going to be numbers. And then we have the position, which is a varchar, and again it is not going to be above 100 characters. If you don't understand what these data types mean, there is a video in the description below. Be sure to check that out so you understand why we are using these data types for these columns. So let's get straight into the table creation process. As you can see here, I already have my PostgreSQL server up and running. So now, before creating a table, we need to create it in a database. And you will see that by default, we are in the Postgres database. But we want an employee database to create the employee table. We want a separate database. So to do that, we need to create the employee database. To create the database, we simply use the command create database and then the name of our database, which is employee database. So I'm just going to keep it short, employee DB, and then enter. So here it says create database, which means that the employee database has been created successfully. So to now navigate into our employee database where we are going to be creating the table, the employee table, we then use the command /c and the name of the database, which is employee database, employee DB. Then you hit enter. So it says you are now connected to database employee DB as user Postgres. So now we are connected into the employee database. So if we create our table now, we are creating it in the employee database. So now our table which we want to create, we want it to look like this. So to do that, we are going to use the syntax create table, and then the table name, which in this case is employee, create table employee. Then we now need to specify the columns which we need. The first column which we need is the ID column. which is going to be of type integer. Then next we want a name column, name, which is going to be a set of characters, so we use a varchar, and we want a maximum character of 100 characters. Then the next we want age, and also since it is a number we are just going to use integer. And then lastly we have the position, column, and here we are going to use varchar, and we are going to limit it to 100 characters. Then after that we have to then close the parentheses, and then don't forget to end it with a semicolon. So to recap, we have the syntax: create table, then table name, which in this case is employee. Then for the column we need an ID column which is of type integer. We need a name column which is of type varchar. We need an age column which is of type integer, and we need a position column which is of type varchar. So we are going to hit enter, and you see it shows here create table, which simply means that our table has been created successfully. So congratulations, you just created your first table in PostgreSQL. And to check that this table has actually been created, we can check the list of tables currently in our database using the /d command. And if I hit enter, then you see that we have the employee table under our list of relations. We have the employee name employee, it is of type table. So you see that our employee table has been successfully created. So congratulations on creating your first table. And in the next video we are going to see how we can actually insert data into this table. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that out.